Hi, welcome. Thanks for hopping on this little mini series or session around the basics for the reading tiered fidelity inventory, also referred to as an RTFI. My name is Jackie Jacoby, and I am one of the consultants here at Region 1. My area of focus is literacy as well as special education and then supports for families. My contact information is going to be at the end of this session. If you need to reach out with any additional questions, please do not hesitate. Let's just get right into it. Today, what we're going to do is make sure that we have a clear understanding for you what the RTFI is, why we use the RTFI, why it's even important in the first place. Then we're going to walk through the logistics of how to complete it, and then we're going to talk about what you're going to do with this information after you complete the RTFI. So the purpose of the RTFI, it really is to provide your building leadership teams with a tool to assess how your multi-tiered system of supports around your school model for reading can be evaluated. So it's going to pull apart different things. And the reason why we have this is because of some of the foundational things that we know about reading. Okay, reading is not an instinct. Although, in the same way, I apologize. Reading is not an instinct, but we know that like language, for example, is an instinct, but we have to be taught how to read. And then we need to know how to read so that we can just have equitable access to our environments, right? It's a doorway for us through our educational experiences and successes, and it's an opportunity for us to have various vocational paths in our future. So because we don't have this distinct understanding of how to read, we need to start early and very intentionally to ensure that all students have success in reading. And the only way that we can really do that is to make sure that we have an effective and efficient system around school reading instruction. So really, what do we mean when we say an effective and efficient system? I'm just going to step back for a minute and we're going to listen to Katie Novak. She's got a really good quick video. This is an 8-minute video, but we're going to stop it at around 6 minutes. And she's going to explain what we mean when we say an effective system. Hey guys, at this time, please pause the video and look at this slide on how to access an external video on YouTube from Katie Novak. Once you're finished, please resume watching the RTFI overview video. Thank you. She packs a punch in a short amount of time, so if you want to go revisit that, please feel free. And then alongside that, you will also notice that she said that there's a series available, and she does have that available through Massachusetts, which is where she works for state development and things of that nature. So what do we need to have in place when we're talking about this school-wide reading model? We need to make sure that we're continuing to address all of the reading needs in our buildings, similar to what Katie said. So we have that by having evidence-based practices, okay, moving away from that notion of research-based in RTFI or RTI. Then we need to have a big focus around the components and the big ideas of reading that are enriched with science and evidence. And then, like she said, that other component is that we have a data source, like is what we're doing working and how can we go about analyzing it? And the building leadership team that you're sitting on is the team that's going to do that, right? Because you cannot do it alone. This is systems within a school or a district, and this is not person-centered. This is not person responsible for changing or, recognizing perhaps the strengths that we have in our current systems. So we got to do this so that we can reach all learners. So the RTFI is going to assess just that, right? So we look at this multi-tiered system of support, and the RTFI is going to be a tool for us to see if we have the components that are needed based on that evidence to make impact, to remove those barriers. Right, so as you can see, similar to a multi-tiered system of support, the RTFI has 3 tiers. Okay, so there's tier 1, there's a section of questions that you will answer for tier 1, and then that same format will be utilized for tier 2 and tier 3. right? But like Katie had mentioned, all students are tier 1 students first, and you can't intervene your way out of a problem that might happen or might be rooted in tier 1 system issues. Okay, so we're going to start with tier 1 always. We're going to do tier 1 RTFI first to assess what we're doing for all students, right? And we're going to look at teams, implementation, resources, and evaluations in all 3 of those tiers eventually, but for now, we're just going to focus on that tier 1 instruction and system. Okay, so let's take a quick look. Let me move my little head here at what the RTFI is going to look like. Okay, you should have access to it in the other document that you were provided by your leadership team that you will use during the RTFI facilitation. But this is basically what it looks like. Okay, it's going to have these points, these items. So for example, 1.1, a school leadership team is established to support the implementation of a tier 1 reading system. So if you have that in place, you'd have 2 points, and that means teams include the school principal and both of the following: school representation, and it is a functional size, 5 to 7 members, to effectively accomplish work. Give you a moment to read the rest. Okay, so this is what each item is going to look like. Okay, and then at the end, there's a data source column, and we'll talk more about what that means later. But as your role, this is what you're going to be looking at and voting for. Okay, so speaking of roles, there are, for completing the RTFI, 3 main roles. Okay, you're going to have a facilitator. Typically, this is a non-voting member, and it's someone who reads, like I just read, that first item, then reads what happens if you have it in place for 2 points, and then brings it to the team to really vote. Okay, typically this is someone who is outside of the building and is somebody who has enough information around the RTFI that if the team taking or completing it has any questions, they can clarify anything. We then have responders, okay? These are the team members, typically maybe your building leadership team, who have knowledge around the school building and can provide a vote for each item. And then you have a note taker, and this person simply is going to not only record the scores for the inventory, but they're also going to write down any discussions that happen as this facilitation occurs. Okay, so I kind of modeled it a little bit, but this is what it will look like in administration. Okay, so the facilitator is going to read an item, then they're going to read that column too. Then they're going to summarize kind of what happens across that trajectory from 2 points to 0 points, okay? Then they'll have an opportunity for the team or the participants, responders, to read and ask any clarifying questions prior to voting. Then the facilitator will provide any clarification that is needed. And then on a 3, 2, 1 vote, everyone will vote, okay? The responders will, vote in whatever capacity is decided by your leadership. And then if a consensus is not reached, the facilitator will invite people, participants, responders, to share why, like what made you answer a 2 and what made you answer a 1, and then call for a revote until there is consensus. Okay. What do we really mean though when we say consensus? We're going to get to that here in a minute. Okay, so how to vote. So like I said, your leadership is going to select how to vote. Oftentimes, if we're doing this on a virtual platform, you can hold up a whiteboard or voting cards. Hand signals on a virtual platform can be difficult, and it makes people kind of respond, change their response rather quickly, right? Like, have you ever been in the room where it's like, who here has facilitated an RTFI? And everyone's like, you know, and then people change or whatever it is. So hand polling, I really wouldn't suggest that, but online polling is also a great option. So each team member is going to vote, and in order to move to the next item, they have to reach a consensus. So that means, or like if we're not able to reach consensus even after discussions, that a consensus would mean that the minority, like maybe the people that just really don't agree, can deal with the majority. Like, okay, I'm fine with it. You know, I understand where you're coming from, and I could support this publicly. Like, so I can still be a member of this BLT, and if teachers ask me, oh, you know, you guys voted this, and this is now our priority moving forward, and you can be like, yes, that's correct, right? You don't want to result in it having any animosity. Now, this voting is really important because oftentimes you're going to have a robust and diverse group of individuals hopefully participating in this, and oftentimes, you know, a principal might respond with a 2, like, absolutely, yes, we have that in place. And it could very rightly be in place. It could be something that's in the system, but maybe there might be a classroom teacher that was never notified of that being in place or was never trained on it, or they're new. So their answer could look totally different. So we really just got to be aware of the power that we have when we're sitting on these teams and make sure that we all take the time to hear each other's voices, because as educators, we always want to have the right answer, but the more honest we are about this, the more opportunities we'll have to improve our systems, and that give you guys bragging rights at the end of the day when you start improving numbers and things of that nature. So it's really, I really just encourage you as we go through these to really think long and hard about it. And there's a component of this that kind of gets to that, and I'll go back. I thought I had it on here. I apologize. Perhaps I don't, but let's just go back to this one slide here, okay? It was what I had mentioned before, that data source, okay? So if you're like, oh yeah, 2 points, totally, we have that in place, yeah, then the facilitator might ask you, okay, what is the evidence for that, okay? Because if it's not in writing, then really does it exist? Do you have a system that continuously provides whatever that item is? Just really making sure that you have evidence to back up what you're saying. And this isn't meant for a got you type thing. This is meant to ensure that, hey, if we don't have it, we can make it better. It's an opportunity to make it better. Okay, so when the facilitator asks for evidence, if it can't be determined where that might be or what that could look like, take that just as a learning opportunity for your entire district and your entire school's system. Okay, apologize for flipping around here. And then of course, I'm sure you want to know what's the commitment for this. So when you first do this RTFI, you're going to start with tier 1. Okay, so tier 1 instruction is going, or tier 1 inventory is going to take about 2 hours-ish. There is that time for that rich conversation, and the more conversation you have, the more data it's going to give you guys as you come back to the table to review kind of where you were in time. Okay, and now, like previously mentioned, there is tier 2 and tier 3, but you want to get really a good foundation in that tier 1, and really this is a temperature check in time. Okay, so you're doing a 2-hour temperature check, having a rich discussion around your reading instruction program, your school model, whatever words you call it locally. And then this could change. You could do this in the spring and then turn around and do it again later in the winter and realize that you've made, really great growth. Okay, so it's an opportunity for growth more consistently and to really continue to evaluate where you are and to make sure that you're working towards action steps in your school improvement plan, in your local literacy plans. So it's just really a great opportunity to kind of just get things on the table and figure out what you need to do to make a more effective and efficient system. So please take the time that you need to have those discussions. because after you complete the RTFI, you're gonna have that opportunity to brainstorm with the team. And oftentimes this leads to the data being reviewed with administration and coaches. Maybe your leadership team reviews it all together. And then then you'll determine priorities, but then also it's a great opportunity to really have a plan in place for professional development. Okay, oftentimes we have teachers, doing things that are good for their own growth, but if we all are getting professional development and working with our IPDIPPs and our LPDCs to completely and effectively learn and grow together, then we're going to all work towards that common goal or that common plan, whatever you may call it, to really work towards meeting the needs of kids and closing our achievement gaps. So having a really good, robust professional development plan in place can be super, super beneficial for teams to really work on creating effective and efficient systems for reading instruction. Okay, I really hope that that wasn't too much all at once, but I just wanted to honor your time and get through it as quickly as we can. Of course, locally, somebody provided this to you, so that person may be a resource for you, but I do want you to know that my door is open. At least my inbox for email is, and you can reach me at this email address here. And then I just encourage you, we're seeing literacy being this huge initiative across the state, but really it's one of the foundational skills that really promotes equity and access for every learner throughout their life and into citizenship. So really to kind of amplify that message, the state support team in Region 1 has put together a Level Up with Literacy newsletter. Okay, so if you visit our website at sstr1.org, go to the newsletter tab that you'll see across the main banner, and then Level Up Literacy is there. It's a bi-monthly newsletter. It's quite the tongue twister. It's a bi-monthly newsletter, and there's going to be an issue coming out in December, and then you'll see the next one in February, so on and so forth. So I just encourage you to sign up for that. It's enriched with instructional practices that you can use in the classroom like tomorrow. But then if you are a coach or leader, there's also systems-wide supports in there. Please just take the time to get on over there and subscribe. And I just wanted to say thank you again for your time today. It was great having your attention and getting these steps in place to really make improvements for all kids. And thank you for everything that you do. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks.